Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we are opening up the ultimate biological cold cases. We're looking at creatures and plants that just completely vanished from the scientific record. Some have been missing for decades, some for well over a century, and a couple were previously only known to us through ancient literal bones. We're going to explore the thrilling stories of 5 rediscovered lost species, and we'll map out exactly how they managed to defy the odds and make a miraculous return to the modern world.
Right now, across the globe, more than 4,300 species carry a rather haunting designation. They're officially considered lost. That is an absolutely staggering number of plants, insects, and animals that have essentially just dropped off the map, leaving scientists scratching their heads and wondering if they're actually gone forever.
Okay, let's dive into this and clarify what that actually means, because this distinction is absolutely crucial. You see, a lost species isn't necessarily extinct. Extinction is definitive, right? It means the very last individual has perished. A lost species, on the other hand, well, it simply hasn't been recorded by science for decades or even centuries. They're kind of like the ghosts of the natural world. They might still be out there, surviving in secret, just waiting for us to finally look in the right place.
Which raises an incredibly exciting question. What happens when the supposedly extinct actually return? Like what happens when a biological ghost suddenly reappears in the modern world, entirely upending everything we thought we knew about them? Well, to find out, we need to travel to some of the most remote, poorly explored regions of the world.
Case 1 and 2, the living fossils.
Our first 2 mysteries bring us to New Guinea, dealing with species that modern science only knew from ancient bones. Just look at this timeline. So, in the 1990s, fossils of a gliding marsupial dating back 6,000 to 7,500 years were discovered, and because no living specimens had ever been seen, it was formally described and declared extinct in 1999. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. In 2015, a single, super fuzzy photograph of a strange nocturnal mammal was handed to researchers by local villagers. The evidence slowly mounted until finally, in 2023, local villagers brought a living, breathing individual directly to researchers Carlos Bu and John Hall. The extinct fossil was actually alive.
And this brilliantly illustrates how reality can just completely shatter our assumptions. Based on those ancient fossils, scientists had placed this animal in the greater glider genus. They assumed it was quite large with a big bushy tail. But examining the living animal revealed something totally different. It was much smaller, it had these hairless ears, a really distinct eye ring, and a non-bushy, tapering, tightly curled prehensile tail. It was literally so different that scientists had to establish a brand new genus for it in 2026. They named it Touse, drawn from the local Maybrat language, and it's now known to us as the ring-tailed glider.
But the ring-tailed glider wasn't the only ancient mystery solved in that 2026 study. Prepare to feel the sheer weight of time here. 10,000. That is how many years old the fossils were for our next species, the Pygmy Long-Fingered Possum. Back in 1991, mammologist Tim Flannery examined these ancient subfossils, and he naturally concluded they represented an unknown, totally extinct species.
But the crazy part? The truth was literally hiding in plain sight the entire time. In 2019, shortly before his death, mammologist Ken Aplin was just browsing the University of Papua New Guinea's museum collections, and he found 2 specimens collected way back in 1992 that had been completely misidentified. Notice the features. Typical long-fingered possums have these bold black and white faces with a bright white nose bridge, but these misidentified specimens were noticeably smaller, colored black and tan, with a very distinct stripe down the nose. They perfectly matched Flannery's 10,000-year-old fossils. The species wasn't extinct at all. It had just been sitting there, mislabeled in a museum drawer for decades, and is now confirmed alive and well in the wild.
Case 3, surviving against the odds.
This one takes us to the Rio San Pablo floodplain in Bolivia, tracking the tiny Momoc cloudy seasonal killifish. And the story of this little fish starts with a pretty grim reality. It was first discovered in a temporary wetland in 2003. Its entire life cycle relies on these temporary pools that fill up during the rainy season. But shortly after its discovery, that very wetland was completely destroyed. A village expanded, agricultural fields took over, and poof, the habitat vanished. For over 20 years, researchers returned to the area only to find nothing. The Momoc cloudy was presumed completely extinct.
But nature has an absolutely incredible way of holding on against all odds. In April 2024, researchers Draward and Litz went looking for it just one last time. Exploring a tiny remnant patch of forest, surrounded by farmland, about 100 kilometers away from the original site, they found a shallow little pond.
And they didn't just find the moma, they discovered a literal world record. 7 different species of seasonal killifish all living together in that single temporary pond. After 2 decades of searching, we finally have photographs of living moma killifish.
Case 4. The 174-year ghost.
We're now heading to the steep Mishmi Hills of present-day India to look for a phantom plant. So, the crucial point here is this number, 174. The plant was first collected by a British botanist in 1836, and then again by 2 famous botanists in 1850. And then, absolute silence. Nothing. For 174 years, there was 0 scientific record of this plant existing anywhere outside of dried, dusty herbarium collections.
It wasn't until a botanical survey in 2024 that the ghost finally reappeared. And when it did, wow, it completely subverted expectations. If you picture a typical North American blueberry, you probably imagine a low ground-dwelling shrub, right? While the Himalayan blueberry survived in this dense, super steep terrain by basically becoming an epiphyte. It grows almost like a vine, climbing up and over other plants with branches reaching up to 4.5 meters long.
But we do need a harsh reality check here. In that entire sprawling forest, researchers were only able to locate 16 individual surviving plants, scattered across 2 kilometers. Just 16. That is a terrifyingly fragile lifeline for a species that managed to hide from us for over a century and a half.
Case 5. The citizen science miracle.
For our final mystery, we are returning to the eastern United States. Let's look at the suspect, the Appalachian grasshopper. This little guy is peculiar. It's flightless, possessing these tiny, practically useless wings. It has distinctive banded legs and a brown-gray coloration that makes for absolutely perfect camouflage in rocky, gravelly environments. And because of that incredible camouflage, it was incredibly easy to overlook. In fact, the last confirmed scientific record was way back in 1946. It was widely regarded as gone for good.
But this seemingly impossible cold case was cracked by an amazing citizen science pipeline. Let's move to and see how this builds. Step 1. In 2018, an amateur naturalist named Emily snaps a photo of an unidentified bug and uploads it to the website iNaturalist. It just sits there, completely ignored for 3 years. Step 2. In 2021, grasshopper expert Gracie Catanzaro is sifting through online photos, spots those unique banded legs and useless wings, and realizes, oh my gosh, it's the extinct Appalachian grasshopper. Then, after another amateur photo pops up in 2022, we reach Step 3. Andrew Rapp, a field zoologist out in Virginia, goes actively hunting for it. Searching alongside a random gravel road, he finally spots a female sitting right there in the rocks. 80 years later, the grasshopper is confirmed alive.
Why rediscovery matters.
We've tracked 5 incredible stories of survival today, but honestly, this goes far beyond just neat biological trivia. What we really need to take away from this is a dual message of hope and urgency. On one hand, these stories highlight nature's profound, stubborn resilience. From adapting to steep mountainous terrain to surviving in a single muddy pond, life just finds a way. But, as we saw with those 16 remaining Himalayan blueberries, these surviving populations are intensely fragile. A rediscovery isn't a permanent victory. It's a second chance. It gives conservationists an incredibly rare opportunity to step in and provide immediate habitat protection before these species slip away a second time, and perhaps forever.
The Appalachian grasshopper proved that you definitely do not need a biology degree or a multi-million-dollar remote expedition to make history. Sometimes, the literal ghosts of the natural world are hiding right next to a mundane gravel road. So, thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes open out there and stay curious, because really, what supposedly extinct species might you accidentally stumble across in your own backyard?